So Nisha, which of the Seven Dwarfs do you feel like today?
Definitely sleepy.
Yeah. Same. Walt Disney is one of those figures, like Darth Vader or the dog from Air Bud, who will forever be remembered by pop culture due to the massive contribution he made to it. Arguably Disney's most famous and influential contribution to pop culture was the film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a film Disney almost went insane making due to insisting that everything about it had to be perfect.
Okay, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was a massive hit.
Yeah, it also earned Walt Disney an Oscar, and the famous story about that is that they gave him one big Oscar and 7 little Oscars. And it's made Disney millions, if not billions, over the years, if you take into account the fact it basically launched Disney Animation.
Yeah.
And Disney Animation has made basically all the money that there is to be made and has allowed Disney to become one of the biggest, most prolific and amorphous companies on the planet, to the point where they now basically own everything. And all of that success can be traced back to Snow White, which is why it's kind of amazing to think that every single person in Walt Disney's life told him not to make the film.
So what do you mean by everybody told him not to make the film?
I mean all of Walt Disney's peers, the people working for his company, his friends, and even his own wife told him that Snow White was a bad idea and that it wouldn't make his company any money, and would in fact perhaps sink the company as a whole due to the amount of money he wanted to sink into it.
So how much money are we talking?
We're talking $1.5 million in the money back then, and there will be a fact bar below telling you what that is in today's adjusted dollars. And Walt Disney almost went bankrupt trying to finance this film, mortgaging his house, selling his car, and going into his bank every other week to beg them for more money. You might be wondering, where did all that money go, Karl? And the answer is, it all went on the animation, because Disney insisted upon nothing less than absolute perfection in regards to the way things were portrayed via the animated medium, stressing to animators that everything shown on screen should move and react to stimulus in a realistic way, down to things as small as the movement of clothing, which is why some of the shots in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs hold up today, and in fact look better than some animation done today, because that shit was all done by hand under the eagle-like eye of Walt fucking Disney. It was like, it has to be perfect.
So for a film that was made in the 1930s, it looks so good, and I'm just wondering, how did they get it to look so fluid?
Yeah, and you can say that of a lot of films from the golden age of Disney, where the animation just looks flawless. It looks exactly how it would do if you got an actor to come in and act out the scene, and that's because that's exactly what Walt Disney did. He brought in wild animals, actors, dressed them up like the characters in the film, and have them move around in front of animators, and then he filmed that, and animators would then use that footage as reference. And one of my favourite examples of this is for the film Fantasia, which called for a hippo to dance. And the animators were like, oh, we don't really know how the body of the hippo would react in regards to the movement it's making. So Walt Disney brought in a 200-pound ballet dancer and had them ballet dance for the animators, so they could observe how her body moved and like how her body weight shifted and jiggled in regards to the dancing, and they used that as reference. And then you have the film Cinderella, where they basically hired actors, dressed them up like the characters, and had them act out the entire film.
Oh, wow.
Filmed it and used it as reference to the animators, and then never released any of that footage. And apparently it's just buried somewhere deep in the Disney vault, and there's only been a few clips and stills released from it. And when I say they acted out the film, I mean they made props, they made costumes, they got sets, they hired actors. And I'm hoping that goes part way to explaining why the budget for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs ballooned to the amount that it did, because that's something Disney pioneered in that film, of bringing in real actors at great expense to the company and himself to use as reference, and then never use that footage for anything else. It's like, what? You're a madman. I'm guessing there's a lot of people watching who didn't realise they did that for almost every single film they made back then, and used such reference techniques for the most inconsequential of shots, including stuff like, a broken window, which resulted in them throwing just bricks through a window to see how a window would break, so they could realistically animate a broken window, which makes perfect sense when you think about it, because, yeah, of course they did that, because otherwise they wouldn't know what it looked like, and watching it with your eyes, you would notice immediately if the window looked weird when it broke. The human body especially has been incredibly difficult to draw, animate, and render, because there's just so many micro movements and just details of human musculature that are really difficult to like just get quite right, and when you don't get them quite right, they look really off, which results in like the uncanny valley effect, where something looks almost human but not human enough to fool you, so it becomes unsettling. And Disney went to great lengths to try and avoid something similar in regards to just gravity and momentum, in regards to objects and fabric and things like that. It's fascinating to think about, and I would love to see just all that reference footage, perhaps spliced side by side with the end product, see how close they got it. Because like some of the few snippets of it that have been released over the years, it's one-to-one. And I think it must be so gutting for people who work in animation that the better they do their job, the less people tend to notice it and the less impressive it seems overall. An example that springs to mind being Monsters, Inc., where they had an entire team of people animating Boo's t-shirt, just so it looks like it moved and reacted realistically, as if there was an actual little girl wearing a shirt, and no one gives a fuck because they did their job right. So why would you notice it? You'd only notice it if it looked bad or wrong.
So this film took a big toll on Walt Disney.
Yeah, because he insisted on nothing less than absolute perfection, and as you might imagine, having every single person in his life, including his close friends and his wife, tell him he was a fucking idiot for trying to follow this dream, took a very big toll on him, and he culminated in a mental breakdown in 1935, where he almost shut down production of the film, right up until while he was on vacation recovering. He went into a cinema and saw that a bunch of Mickey Mouse shorts had all been stitched together to create a feature-length animated film, which is when he realised there is a market and a demand for feature-length animated films. It's just that there isn't one around to satisfy that demand. So I should probably go home and finish Snow White, which he did, to great success, earning himself millions and millions of dollars and growing his company to one that will soon own everything on the planet. So, hooray! Do you know what my favourite bit about that film is, though? While it was in production, trade magazines kept referring to it as Disney's folly. Like in reference to the fact, oh man, what an idiot. Look at him spending all his money on an animated film. Animation's never gonna take off. No one's ever gonna go watch an animated feature-length movie, and then it makes all the money and wins like 5 million Oscars. Now his company owns the planet. It's no surprise that hand-drawn animation's not really a thing anymore, because one, it costs a fortune, and two, you can usually do most of the stuff with CGI. And I do like that even though Disney have moved away from traditional hand-drawn animation, they still try to push the boundaries of what's possible. And a good example of that is the film Incredibles 2, where Incredibles 1 got a lot of praise from animators in regards to how realistic the hair and fabric looked. And for Incredibles 2, they included the flex shot of Violet blow-drying her hair.
Yeah.
Purely to show that this is how far technology has advanced since we made that film. Of look how realistic our hair physics are now. We can show someone blow drying their hair and it doesn't look bad.
I want you back here by 10:30.
11-ish?
10-ish, heading for 9:30-ish.
10:30-ish it is.
It's like, wasn't the first 3D animation the first Toy Story?
It's one of the first, yeah. It's one of the first animated feature-length films.
Yeah, because if you look at that compared to the recent Toy Story films, you can see a big difference on that as well, and it's amazing.
It's incredible. It's like the Lego movie is one that a lot of people point to as just being almost flawless in regards to achieving what it sets out to do, where the Lego in that looks so realistic. There were genuine debates online when the first trailer dropped of, is it stop motion? Is it just really high-end stop motion? Because the Lego bricks in it look so good. And they got that by scanning in actual Lego bricks with like a laser microscope. The other one, where it's just like, this is a flex, but maybe in a slightly different way, was Coraline. And why I describe that movie as a flex is because they hand-knitted all of the clothes for the characters, which doesn't sound that impressive until you realise the characters were about 6-7 inches tall.
I don't know if you've heard of the film ParaNorman, because that's another stop motion
they did something similar with that one, ParaNorman's another one where they flexed their fucking animation budget. And another example of a forgotten film that just flexed on fucking everybody and no one gave a shit is Kubo and the Two Strings. And there's a fight scene in that was done in stop motion. It's like, how the fuck did you do this? And people were genuinely like, we don't know how they did it because it doesn't look like stop motion, and it is.
Yeah.
And we are genuinely baffled how they achieved that effect.
He fell in love with a fool and betrayed our father.
And to end on, there's a live-action example I adore from the film The Raid 2. And the shot during a car chase, it goes into the car,
Yeah.
shows the guy driving the car, and then goes out of the window, and then films the rest of the chase. And people were trying to break down how they did that shot. And there was rumours that it was spliced, or it was CGI, or they had like a camera on a stick that they fed through the thing and snaked it through. And it turns out it's the most lo-fi solution ever, where they dressed up a cameraman like the car seat. And a guy on a motorcycle passes him the camera. He gets it like in his hands, which you can't see because he's dressed like the car seat. And then he passes it out of the window to a cameraman who is duct taped to a mechanism strapped to the side of a car, who holds it. And I love that the solution was so lo-fi, so they just dressed a guy like a car seat and give him the camera through the window.